Here I am going to answer some questions about my escaping the simulation video. If you have very little attachment left and no physical desires, and no kids, plus can consciously astral travel, would it make it easier or give you an advantage of gnosis at that moment? I will break this down to cover everything more thoroughly. Attachments and physical desires. The material world is a prison. The true divine realm is spiritual and transcendent. The demiurge fashioned the physical cosmos, the simulation. Human souls contain a divine spark trapped in matter. So bodily life isn't merely distracting. It could be seen as part of the problem. Bodily desires bind the soul to the material realm. Sexual desires especially perpetuates entrapment by producing more bodies. Passion clouds spiritual knowledge, gnosis. Therefore the most focused of spiritual seekers follow celibacy, fasting, strict asceticism, avoidance of marriage. The idea isn't simply moral purity, it is metaphysical escape. Attachment to family, wealth, social status, physical pleasure is strengthening the illusion of the material world. Liberation requires inner awakening, detachment from bodily identity, realization of one's true spiritual origin. Some groups who claim to be Gnostic, like Ordo Templis Orientis, do the opposite, indulging in bodily desire, claiming that since matter is meaningless, physical actions do not affect the true spirit. But what they fail to realize is that the more they indulge in those things, the more they want them. Addictions grow and ruin you. They take you away from what the true focus should be, escape. The problem is not pleasure itself. The problem is identification with the body. Attachment, forgetting one's divine origin. Detachment, remembering it. Child-free. From my other work you will know, I mention this often, that having children is like a continuation of your code, that is DNA, and DNA is the thing that traps you in the simulation. We are our ancestors, replicated over and over, with more and more added to it as the program code becomes more and more sophisticated. Having children means you are adding to this even more. The idea is to stop the line, and therefore stop the suffering. Only then can your true self, your higher self, reunite completely and go home to Pleroma. This is why the older the religion or tradition, the more this is apparent in their teachings. Because the older the religion or tradition is, the more of the ancient teachings of the Serpent bloodline they have in them, before they were later corrupted. And the more modern Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity and Islam are actually encouraging procreation. So that shows you how corrupt and wrong they have become, trapping everyone in the simulation for even longer. Here I will break down some religions and traditions as examples. Hinduism, origin, circa 1500 to 500 BCE, the Vedic period. The Upanishads introduce renunciation, liberation, moksha, and the idea that the worldly life, including family, combine the soul. This is where we first clearly see the tension between esoteric, reunification as a higher spiritual path, liberation, moksha, or exoteric, pro-family, householder life, ritual, family lineage, sacred duty, dharma. Jainism, origins, circa 6th century BCE. Esoteric, strong emphasis on non-attachment and liberation from rebirth. Monks practice total celibacy, a much more radical rejection of worldly life for serious spiritual seekers. Worldly attachment, including family life, is seen as binding the soul to karma. Procreation can therefore be viewed as deepening worldly entanglements. Exoteric. Jain householders are permitted to marry and have children. Buddhism, origins, circa 5th century BCE. Esoteric, teaches that life involves suffering, dukkha. Goal, escape the cycle of rebirth, samsara. Monastic path requires celibacy. Attachment, including family attachment, fuels rebirth. Liberation requires detachment. Exoteric, it does not forbid lay people from having children. Gnosticism, the modern version, as the original teachings were not called Gnosticism before this. Origins, 1st to 3rd century CE. Esoteric, often taught that the material world is flawed or a prison. Procreation is discouraged, seeing it as trapping divine sparks in matter. Gnosticism often saw the material world as actively corrupt or evil. Creating children meant creating more prisons for divine sparks. Sexual reproduction sustained the flawed cosmic system. Thus, celibacy could be seen as spiritually compassionate, refusing to expand the trap. Exoteric. Gnosticism has never had an exoteric side. It has always encouraged everyone to become a priest or priestess themselves. It never misleads. This is what has always made it so dangerous to those who seek to keep you trapped. Modern philosophical antinatalism, origins 19th to 21st century. Here the idea becomes not just spiritual reunification, but an ethical claim that it is morally wrong to create new life, because life entails suffering. This is the clearest having children is a trap position, and it is philosophical rather than religious. Christianity also has its esoteric and exoteric. The priests are told to not have children and remain celibate. Certainly in the first waves from Catholicism, which later became watered down to newer, more modern versions, meaning that even their own priests are having children, and the whole religion becomes an exoteric trap. I think I have made my point though. Spirituality is not for the mundane. It is for those who have true will and focus to escape the trap. And one of the biggest, most convincing traps of this simulation is the belief that we are only here to have children, the very thing that traps us. Those who can only live in the exoteric cannot escape just yet. Maybe their children will. Astral travel. It weakens identification with the physical body. It demonstrates that consciousness is not purely material. It may reduce fear of death. It could provide insight into subtler layers of reality. However, and this is crucial, experience does not equal liberation. Insight plus detachment equals liberation. You can leave your body and still have ego. You can see heavenly realms and still crave them. You can gain powers and become more attached. From a classical spiritual standpoint, Astral travel is at best a tool and at worst a distraction. Since you mentioned the bardo, how is your stand on the 49 days that are mentioned for prayers to reach and guide a deceased loved one? In Tibetan Buddhism, bardo means intermediate state. It refers to transitional phases of consciousness, the state between death and the next rebirth. The classic source is the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Why 49 days? Traditionally, the post-death bardo is said to last up to 49 days, divided into 7-day cycles. The idea comes from Tibetan interpretations of Indian Buddhist psychology. Consciousness in the intermediate state is unstable. It is repeatedly drawn toward rebirth. Every 7 days there is a strong karmatic pull. By 49 days, rebirth has almost always occurred. In Tibetan Buddhism cultures, family and monks perform prayers, mantra recitations, merit dedication, readings from the Bardo Thodol. These are believed to help the deceased by reminding the consciousness to recognize the clear light, reducing fear and confusion, generating positive karmatic conditions. As Gnostic Theolalites, our core belief is, ignorance binds the soul, knowledge frees it. From that perspective, if you awaken in life, you can ascend. If you remain ignorant, rituals after death have limited power. In Tibetan Buddhism, the dead person can be helped by prayers after death. The process is fluid and still influenced. Recognition in the moment can change the outcome. In Gnosticism, what matters most is knowledge gained while alive. After death, the soul's fate is largely already determined by its level of awakening. External rituals after death play a much smaller role. Liberation is front-loaded into life, not managed post-mortem. Why is it that even the most spiritually mature people suffer so much pain and heartbreak when somebody dies that they were deeply connected to? Deep spiritual maturity does not mean emotional numbness. It means something much more subtle. Love creates vulnerability. When you are deeply connected to someone, your nervous system co-regulates with theirs. Your daily rhythms entwine. Your sense of self expands to include them. When they die, that woven pattern tears. Spiritual development does not erase attachment bonds formed through biology and shared life. The pain is partly neurological, partly relational, partly existential. And yes, even enlightened teachers cry when loved ones die. Non-attachment does not mean I don't care. It means I love without clinging to permanence. But even when you understand impermanence deeply, the body and heart still register loss. The quiet truth, spiritual maturity doesn't mean you stop loving deeply. It means you love deeply, knowing it will end in form. And that knowledge does not cancel the ache when it does. If anything, it makes the love more luminous, and the grief more honest. What are your teachings on beloved pets leaving this realm? Animals are much like humans. Some of them have the inner divine spark. Others are clum, just run purely from code, but no higher spiritual intelligence. If a pet has bonded with you, they won't be clum. Most animals that are not clum have an easier time in the afterlife because they don't get so caught up in the trappings of the material world. But of course each case is different. Some will return to Pleroma, others will get caught in one of the other traps that prevents them from moving on. Some pets miss their humans so much and don't want to be parted from them. That can cause them problems because they can be tricked more easily. Some will stay trapped in limbo, watching their humans, trying to comfort them. This is why it's so important that we let them go, as painful as it is. Most animals know when they are going to die. Dogs will want to be alone because your emotional response to them dying will be painful to them, and the last thing they want to do is upset you. Them wanting to be alone at the end doesn't mean they don't love you, quite the opposite. However, some will choose to be with their humans right until the end. Losing a pet can in many ways be even more painful than a family member, and that is because human-pet bond can become very strong. If you work from home, you're with them 24/7. They are always there. And then, when they are suddenly no longer there, the pain can be unbearable. I know that I will never forget my pets that have passed, especially the dogs. But I have allowed them to move on, even though I didn't want to. I remember when I lost my dog that I got in the UK, and he moved with me to Sweden. He had also travelled through Europe with me in my motorhome. He had been through so many things with me. He was with me all the time. When he died in my arms, I never thought I would get over it. And I do still miss him, but I know he is okay. One day I was talking to Tao Graham about him, a few weeks after he had passed. I was smiling, remembering him. I was slowly coming to terms with his loss. Suddenly, a white orb moved right in front of my face, and this was in daylight. It floated past me and then dissolved. I knew it was him telling me he is okay and telling me he's going to move on now. I felt great comfort from that. If you are missing your loved ones and pets that have passed, be comforted in the fact that they do still exist and will always love you, just like you will always love them. At some point, you are bound to meet them again in Pleroma. Our egregores are natural phenomena, or created by the program. Egregores are created by human thoughts that are collected together and strengthened the more it is thought about. An egregore forms when a group concentrates intention. Ritual or repeated symbolic action energizes an idea. Emotional investment reinforces it. Members continue feeding it attention. Over time, it is believed to develop autonomy, influence members' thoughts and behavior, persist beyond individual participants. They are artificially generated psychic structures. Beyond ritualistic intentional creation, something functionally similar exists in group identity, shared myth, collective emotional field, cultural narrative, institutional personality. For example, a nation, a religion, a corporation, a fandom. These are not conscious beings, but they exert real behavioral influence. Is it possible that an egregore is aware of someone being aware of it? An egregore cannot be aware of you because it has no mind of its own. It can be programmed to perform tasks, but these tasks are like running a computer program. It cannot think. Is it possible that Clum are puppeted through the mechanism of egregores? You could argue that Clum are programmed to perform certain tasks, so in a way they are similar to egregores, but they are not thought forms. They are simply programs. Does every egregore have a consciousness of their own? Or is there more to it? They have no consciousness. Are the thoughts of humans the only aspect that builds an egregore? An egregore is not built from thoughts alone. It is formed and strengthened by repeated focused thought, emotion, especially intense collective emotion, ritual repetition, spoken words and symbols, group participation, shared intention. Emotion is often considered more powerful than thought. Attention plus emotion plus repetition equals structure. If we translate egregore into secular language, what we're really talking about is something like group identity, collective myth, institutional culture, social narrative. These are not built by thoughts alone either. They are built by shared beliefs, emotional contagion, behavioral reinforcement, symbols and imagery, architecture and environment, media repetition, power structures, social reward and punishment. For example, a nation is not sustained by thought alone. It is sustained by flags, rituals, laws, stories, shared grief and triumph, schools, physical borders. Remove behaviour and environment, and the entity dissolves. Okay, I think I've answered enough questions for today, but do keep your questions coming, as it inspires me to make more videos. Okay, that's all for now. Take care, and goodbye. See you soon.